Thank you for joining us for this webinar. Our goal is to help fundraising groups make the most out of their auction fundraiser. This webinar is part of an ongoing series with exclusive content from Auctria, so be on the lookout for additional topics. You do all the work for the auction fundraiser, but are you really maximizing the event? Do you ever ask yourself or your team, can we make more money with the same effort? The answer is yes, and we are answering some of those questions here today, especially as it pertains to the Auctria platform. And just as a quick overview, Auctria was founded in 2011 as charity auction organizer. We updated our name and logo to Auctria in 2016. Like many awesome tools, this program was designed out of need. We too were tired of paper bid sheets, unorganized tracking, and long, cumbersome checkouts. There had to be a better way. So since then, 28.6 thousand auctions, 3.3 million bidders, 1.8 million items have helped groups raise over $170 million. And every day is still new, and we're always appreciative of feedback. And through the years, the feedback has guided us in improving and adding additional features. So we're always open to that. So let's talk about big picture here for a silent auction. I'm going to go big and then go small, and we'll get into a little bit of the details. So big picture, here are some of the large pieces that make up the silent and live auction within your Auctria platform. And these images match the icons on the dashboard and within the platform to keep everything looking the same for when you go to set up your silent auction and live fundraiser. So starting from the top, you've got your organization. You've got credit cards, donors, add your auction, add your items, tickets and tables, your auction website. Your Auctria license includes ticket and table sales as well as management. So here's the agenda. Like I said, we're going to start from ground zero, setting up the organization and the auction event. We'll go over the configuration, adding the donors, the items. We'll talk about the tickets and the tables and the sponsors. And then I just can't help myself. Even though it's setting up a silent and live auction, I have to close the circle and touch base on closeout and checkout. And this does warrant its own webinar, and it does have its own webinar, and that is up on our website for playback, but we'll touch on that too. You can watch that one when it's convenient for you and when you're closer to that time in your planning. So I want to just do a quick view of your dashboard. These are the pretty boxes in the middle, and the central part of the auction dashboard provides you with an overview of your auction. One little tip, I want to draw your attention to the yellow circle. Inside that, you'll see a little plus sign, and that plus sign indicates you can do a quick add in those areas. So there's two, one for items and one for bidders. But let's look at this a little higher up from a bird's eye view. You get an entire view of your auction in terms of numbers. You've got your number of items, your number of bidders, your total income, and then you also have fingertip access to some of the most important setup features, such as your online registration status, whether it's enabled or turned off, your auction website URL, your credit card status. If you had set up a texting phone number, if that's in place, it would be listed in your dashboard up in the pretty boxes also, as well as your Auctria license. So in area number 2, this is the item summary, and this shows the quantity of items. You can click on any blue text types to see the details and drill down even further. Section number 3 on the right is your income summary. The income summary shows a breakdown of income sources and provides quick links to details as well. Here you'll see donor donations, closed bids, in progress activity. Same thing. Anytime you see blue type, you can click on that and drill down for further. And if you've been hanging around Auctria for any length of time, you'll know that there's usually a few ways to accomplish the same task. And this just allows for the user to find their own comfort zone. So this is a visualization of the hierarchy of your Auctria organization license. And if you're using Auctria for multiple times or planning on it, this is a good way to take a look at it. The organization is at the top, and the organization purchased and is the owner of the Auctria license. Depending on your purchase, depends on the number, shows the number of events that you can run during a license year. So bronze is 2, silver is 4, gold is 8. The organization level details are mostly set up upon purchase. However, any time is a good time to review those details. At the org level, this is where you set up your logo, your credit card connections, social media, and donors are at an org level. Then each event has its own items, bidders, and website. And what's also cool is you can set up the admin level by event too. If you have certain volunteers that are only working on certain events and you want to give them access that's limited by event only. So the first order of business is to set up the organization like we just chatted about. The organization is on the bottom of the nav bar on the left. And then in the yellow box under the org, this is where you can add an auction, manage the users for the organization, and see your license and a couple other housekeeping details. So I've circled across the top in pink some pieces that I want to bring to your attention. These are the details of the organization. This is where you're going to set up the main email, the BCC, the organization's website, and time zone. For social media, this is where you're going to connect your social media account details. And these will be used in the emails as well as on the website. We've got options for Facebook, Google, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, and YouTube is on there too. I'm going to state the obvious here, but use only those that you keep updated. Nothing is worse than clicking a social media link and the most recent post is months or years old. So honestly, if you don't use it, it's okay. Just don't link it. The only icons that will show on the auction website are those that are populated. Talk about the logo area. You can upload a logo for the organization here, or later you will also be able to add a logo at the auction level. So some groups want to have a logo for each event and maybe include the calendar year and the event name. It makes it distinguishable. Connections is referring to your email and your Stripe. Okay, so now from the left section of the auction, in the middle of the screen, you want to do Add New Auction. That's an easy button to click, and then add all the pertinent details. You're going to need to be able to collect payments after the auction concludes. So therefore, setting up a credit card integration is required if you are doing online bidder registration or event ticket sales. Makes sense. If you want to charge somebody for something that they're purchasing, you have to have some credit card integration there. So using credit card processing in Auctria will allow you to connect your Stripe account, use some test and live modes, and the default is live. You can use credit card readers. You can charge processing fees. You can define credit card processing preferences. Bidders can register their card. If necessary, you can issue refunds, as well as view reports. And then for Stripe, you can export some Stripe data. So to access the credit card functions, click credit cards on the left-hand menu, and it really does walk you through the steps. You notice I talked a lot about Stripe. Auctria actually supports 2 credit card services. You can streamline bidder registration with Stripe or Authorize.net, and they're both industry leaders. For Stripe, they do have some processing fees. It's 30 cents per transaction and 2.9%. And if you're a 501c3, they do have some discounted pricing for that. So if that applies, make sure you're receiving their discount. Authorize.net is a little different. It's acting as a gateway to your existing merchant account. And it essentially just allows Auctria access to your to process fees for you. And that's probably based on your current plan. That is probably about $25 a month based on usage, and then a per transaction fee, as well as a percentage. So bottom lining it, if you are not set up with a credit card vendor yet, Stripe is our suggested vendor. If you already use and love Authorize.net, then by all means connect and use them. In each case, no matter which, The credit card numbers are saved securely with the payment processor, not with Auctria, and only a token is saved within Auctria. So each are completely integrated and give you the safety, security, and peace of mind you're looking for to run your event. Now, the next step, we've gotten the organization organized, we've got the credit card organized, now we want to set up the auction event. To do this, we go to the auction section and click Add Auction. See, I'm telling you, you guys can do this. Choose a name for the auction and an event date. But don't worry, the event date here doesn't have to be exact. This just helps the system organize everything when you have multiple events. After creating the auction, you now want to add the details like an image, just for this event, any sort of user permissions. User permissions can be set at the event level as well as the org level. Use the permission that is right and matches the team member with the job that they will be fulfilling on Auctria. I'm going to plow right into items now. Auctria tracks the items as well as other items that you may be selling. Other parts of the auction that can be managed through Auctria are also managed as items are for sale items, donations, raffles, and there's another little piece, it's called partial. If you get little bits and pieces and you run and wrap them together later in a basket, you can load it as a partial and then roll them together, like I said, as a basket. You can also do sponsorships online with Auctria. Each item will have its own title, description, and photos, as well as information about the donors. So it's amazing how quickly auction items come in and how quickly the item list grows. So let me introduce you to categories. The purpose of the item categories is for you as an admin to better organize the experience for the bidder. Categories give you a nice structure to the auction catalog, so items aren't just in there random and willy-nilly. The quicker a bidder can find something, the quicker they can place a bid, of course. So typical category examples we see used are travel and restaurants, dining, entertainment, collectibles. There's two ways to utilize categories, and you can add them first. You can predefine the categories while you're mapping out the auction, or second, as you're loading an item and you realize, this doesn't really fit into anything, let me make a new category, you can add one right then and there. I recommend mapping out the categories in advance and then modify as necessary, especially if you run an auction in the past or something similar and you kind of know what's going to come in. So creating categories in advance, here's how to get that started. On the items page, you click categories, you'll see a separate grouping, click add or view. And when adding the categories, add a name for the category that is pretty descriptive. And the only thing that's required there is a name. There are some other fields that you can fill in, but they're completely optional. So an important note regarding catalog and categories. All categories are included in the printed and online catalog by default. To exclude any category from a catalog, you can click on the appropriate checkbox. So if for some reason you're printing a catalog and you only want to show the live auction items as a mini book of some sort, then you want to click the ones that you want, or vice versa. If you only want to show the silent ones and send that out and save the live ones as a surprise later. Totally up to you, but that's the option that you can click on or click off for categories. It makes it a lot easier. And additional item categories that we talked about that are frequently used are baskets, food, drink, and novelty items. I know it's easy to say food ticket, drink ticket when we're going through this, as well as raffle ticket, but I want to differentiate. Tickets are really designed, tickets within Auctria are designed for event admission. These are items. That's why I'm including these in the item section here. So you've got basket, food, drink, those are all items. Raffles are also all items. And if you haven't used the basket builder within Auctria, you're missing out on a whole lot of fun. Lots of times little bits and pieces come in as donations and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with a little $5 Dunkin' Donuts? Although my son loves Dunkin' Donuts, so he would want that. But if you want to build them together in a basket, you put those in as partials, and then you can kind of gather them together electronically, roll them all up together. It'll show all the donors, it'll show all the retail values, and it makes a really nice presentation online and on your catalog. So let's move on to adding a donor. All donors, you can add a donor individually as items come in, or if you've been working with auctions before, you can upload a list of donors from an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. Adding the items is simple. You click add item and add the pertinent details and multiple images. What's really cool on Auctria is there's a lot of room to put some description. Really sell the auction item. Provide as much detail as you can that'll gain attention and gain bidders. What's also cool is you can put multiple images in for an item. And when people are viewing the auction catalog online, it'll put a nice little photo scroll on it, and it really gives movement to the item page. So if you have some items that are super special and you really want to draw some attention to it, load a whole bunch of photos in there, and it will help your bids increase. So Auctria has a built-in all auction pricing policy that saves time and sets the starting bid, minimum bid increments, and for silent auction items. Have a conversation amongst your team as you agree upon some guidelines first, because opinions on pricing tend to shift as the auction gets closer. So fair warning, if you utilize the global pricing within Auctria, it applies to the current items that are loaded in the system at that moment of time. It will not continue to apply the pricing rules for any new items added. So you'll either A, have to reapply the pricing rule, or B, set the extra items manually. So as you can see, it's highly recommended to add all or almost all your items and then apply a pricing policy towards the end when the items are mostly loaded and complete. Let's talk tickets and tables. They go hand in hand. Like I said, tickets should only be used for an event admission. You can set up all sorts of ticket configurations. You can include meal choices. You can have multiple ticket sales. If you want to have early sales, you can do that with a discount. You can have coupons. You can track all your ticket sales. You can do e-tickets. And then, yes, of course, you can sell tickets at the door, because you know these people show up at the last minute if there are still tickets, and you want to sell at your event. So the ticket feature is tied to bidder creation. I'm going to repeat that. The ticket feature is tied to bidder creation. So when somebody buys a ticket, they are creating their bidder record. So you don't want to enable this for items that represent other kinds of tickets, such as a raffle ticket or a drink ticket. Like I said, those would be for sale items. So this is what the ticket dashboard looks like. Your ticket dashboard is where you can add tickets, configure, sell, and manage the tickets. These are for the event admissions. You can sell your tickets online. You can do early bird pricing. You can sell complete tables in the form of a sponsorship. And then afterwards, you can send e-tickets. There's more advanced features for coupon codes, teacher tickets, and special invitees also. And you can visit that information on our user guide. So the table feature in the Auctria platform is quite robust. Not only can you sell the tickets, but you can also set up table assignments. You can add the table and define the number of seats. If you have tables for 6 or tables for 8 or tables for 10 or multiples, you can go ahead and set up each one separately within the system. And then you can drag and drop the bidders on the table itself. Since you added the seat quantity, the system completely keeps track of how many seats are empty at each table, so you can continue to fill the open tables. It's almost like putting all the names on a sticky and moving them around on your kitchen table, but a whole lot smarter. And edits can be made at any time, including changing tables at check-in. So let's talk a little bit about bidders. There are no limits on the number of bidders that you can have registered for your auction event. If you want, you can register bidders individually. They can self-register themselves through their website as they're purchasing tickets. Or if you really want, you can import them off an Excel spreadsheet. And bidders can, like I said, register themselves on the online through registration. So let's talk a little bit about bidder registration setup. So this is setting up for the bidders to be able to register. Before the bidding begins, they need to register, of course. Registration will provide them with a bidder number that will be used throughout the bidding process. And they can always use their bidder number also for purchases as well as donations. So through the years, we've received lots of requests on how to handle bidder registration. Thus, there are multiple drop-down options that can be configured on the bidder registration setup section. I'm going to examine a couple of these closer, and those that are most relevant to an in-person event or a silent auction where you want to enable online registration, tickets and tables on your dedicated website. So on your bidder registration, and you can see the little arrows there. I'm literally flipping through each of these as we go. So I got to this page, like I said, by flipping on the online bidder registration. And the online bidder registration configurations are pretty much self-explanatory. Here you can see that a start and end time, and then they can opt in for text. The most important is to change the enable online bidder registration here to yes. To do this, you click the button, adjust the fields as you see fit. The next two are pretty straightforward, but I want to bring your attention to them also. So registration contact options refers to the fields that you will have for the bidder registration page and that you want the bidder to provide. Try to request the least amount of info that you need to encourage and not discourage registration. Online payment options, you can read through those and make some adjustments. And the last line I want to bring to your attention is important. Require a card to be registered during registration. I know some people think, oh my gosh, absolutely, we totally want to do that. But talk about it amongst your auction team and powwow with your board and your treasurer to make a decision that fits your audience. If you know people are good for the money, you may not want to require credit cards at registration. And you want to give bidders the benefit of the doubt. You can always collect payments afterwards via checkout process. So let's talk a little bit about the website. You've set up the organization, you've set up the donors, you've set up the items and the bidders configured. Now you need to work on the dedicated website. Don't worry, you can make this super easy using one of the pre-made templates and call it done. But if you want to invest a little bit of time, invite a creative team member to help your website sparkle. There are all sorts of configurations that the creative people love to use. And just as a highlight, there's colors, there's fonts, you can add images, you can add a carousel of images, background images, and you can really let the website take on the personality of your event or your organization. As well, there's all sorts of other pieces that you can add in for donation buttons, and your auction catalog can be configured. So setting up the website is both easy and pretty. This is an example of what the website page looks like. And then on the right, there's a little video on how to do it, as well as the templates. Like I said, there's video and video backgrounds, donation buttons. The website is usually utilizing a shopping cart mechanism for the for sale items and donations. So it's really super easy to use for your registrants and your people that are coming to your event. There's also some really cool About Us cards that are available to showcase your auction team. There's a sponsorship catalog on the website, which is really cool. So you can either make a separate page for your sponsors or a separate catalog. And you can also add a sponsorship row, which just shows a fixed number of sponsors' logos. And those will automatically rotate every few seconds. So this is really cool. You can use this to optimize your auction. When you're selling in your sponsorships, let them know that they're going to be on your sponsorship catalog. You can even draw that sponsorship row into the header of your auction, and that way they show on every single page. So that's a good way to push along your premium sponsorships. So here's just an example, and because I'm having to do share screen, I can't pull up a third screen, but here's an example of a recent auction that took place on Auctria. You can see they did Dreaming of a White Christmas, and you can see how pretty they made their auction page, their website page. So like I said, this webinar is about setting up the silent auctions. However, I would be remiss if I didn't take this full circle with a couple notes on closeout and checkout. So there's many ways that groups handle closeout, and many times they change from year to year based on experiences. There is no right or wrong way here, I guarantee it. And I'll share you just a couple options so that you know kind of where your team might fit and where your audience is best connected. So big picture, you record the final bid and purchases or donations, you collect payment, and then you provide a bidder statement via email or hard copy or text. Okay, looking a little closer. My favorite for silent auctions is to utilize the quick bid entry page. This is so cool because you're collecting, 15, 20, 30, 100 silent auction bid sheets. How do we power through these? You do that using the quick bid entry form. And it almost takes me longer to explain this than it would for you to log in the final bids. So you go to the quick bid page, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 across the top, and you can literally key everything in. You type in the item number, hit tab, type in the bidder number, hit tab, input the amount, hit tab, and then hit the record button. So it makes really quick work of a big stack of silent auction bid sheets. If you want to practice this, we suggest you do so on the Auctria demo. And this keeps your auction data nice and clean and gives you a chance to try out the quick bid page and train volunteers. It's always a tongue twister. So checkout is synonymous with payment collection. You can check out the bidders en masse with a batch checkout if you had collected cards, or you can do it as singles if somebody's standing in front of you and says, hey, I need to go right now. So if you have credit card processing enabled, you can quickly process multiple checkouts at once for all bidders that have a credit card registered their account. The batch checkout will process a payment equal to the outstanding balance for each bidder. Makes sense, right? Or you can do individual checkout if that's a better match for your event timetable. Here's a really cool built-in option. And I'm traveling back to the notifications page. In that last segment, it said, did you want to send item one notifications? And when you send item one notifications to winning bidders by email at the end of the event, you can include a payment link for them. And this includes a personalized link that allows the bidder to pay online. And this will only be enabled if your credit card processing is enabled. So that's why I bring that to your attention now while you're setting everything up. So as you can see, my little puppy dog, he's very relaxed because he's sitting back and watching the dashboard tally for checkout. You can see the numbers move swiftly as the auction closes and as the bidders click their Make Payment button. So you can see we really mean it when we say from first donation to last receipt and all the bidding in between. Auctria does make it easy. But it's never over until it's really over. You are going to want to go back and do some evaluations on how your auction went. And there are tons of reports that are available on the Auctria website. And I'll just summarize the high points here to give you the knowledge to explore and implement. After clicking the report category, you'll find pre-built reports that'll cover almost all your needs. However, we know you might have that one treasurer person or that one quantitative analysis person on your team that will want more information. And you can modify those reports by adding columns, and that's where the add column comes in. So to help teams stay on track, I have created Auctria has created 3 checklists. We've got an event kickoff checklist, which is what you'll kind of want to review with your team as soon as you guys decide that you're going to do an auction. You've got your event launch checklist, which is when you're ready to go public with the actual auction. And then your event day readiness checklist. This is kind of right before when you need to print your bid sheets, things along those lines. And those will be posted hopefully by tomorrow morning once I get everything up in the system after this, when I finish the video recording. And these will be available for you to review with your teams, print, put them under your pillow and sleep with it, however you want to utilize them. So these are some of the resource links that I referred to throughout the presentation. An email will be going out shortly after, like I said, probably tomorrow, that'll have all the resource links as well as those PDFs. And you can always stay in touch with us. We post daily to Facebook and Twitter. On Pinterest, we have a couple different boards with over 500 pins that are links to direct donation request pages from retailers directly through products as well as manufacturers. You can always email us hello@auctria.com. And I also dropped on there our demo address because I find that a lot of teams really don't want to mess around with their data, and doing it on the Auctria demo is a good way to train as well as try some stuff out.